With Drag Me to Hell being one of the most underrated horror films, and it finally gaining steam, I figure I would share my idea for the opening of the sequel Drag Me to Hell. With this opening I wish to set the tone and plot of the film. I hope you enjoy. Now let us begin. Hell is a cacophony of agony. Screams of pain and torture reverberate through the thick, sulphurous air, mingling with sinister laughter and the eerie bleating of goats. The stench of burning flesh and brimstone assaults the senses, making the air almost unbreathable. The scene is a nightmarish tableau of suffering, a cornucopia of tormented souls writhing in eternal torment, their faces contorted in anguish. As the camera pans over this hellish landscape, the heat is palpable, waves of oppressive warmth radiating from the fiery pits. A sudden jump scare shatters the scene. Christine appears, her flesh tortured and burnt, her eyes wide with terror. Her skin is charred and blistered, and the acrid smell of burnt hair fills the air. She screams, her voice a raw, desperate plea that cuts through the cacophony. "Clay, help me!" In an instant, the scene shifts. Clay awakens in his bed, drenched in sweat, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The room is dark, the only sound the pounding of his heart and the faint rustle of the sheets. The cool air of the room contrasts sharply with the oppressive heat of his nightmare. He whispers her name, his voice trembling and hoarse. Christine! The memory of her death haunts him, a relentless nightmare that refuses to fade. He is tormented by visions of her suffering, his mind replaying the moment he failed to save her. The guilt is a heavy weight on his chest, a constant reminder of his inability to protect the woman he loved. The taste of bile rises in his throat as he recalls the horror. Clay sits up, running a hand through his damp hair. The room is silent, but the echoes of Christine's screams linger in his mind. The faint scent of sweat and fear clings to him. He knows he must find a way to end this torment, to free himself from the nightmares that plague him. But for now, he is trapped in a cycle of fear and regret, haunted by the ghost of his past. The early morning light filters through the curtains, casting a soft glow in the room. Clay's phone buzzes on the nightstand, the sound piercing the silence. He groggily reaches for it, his hand trembling slightly. The screen displays Mom, and he hesitates before answering. "Hello." His voice is rough, barely above a whisper. "Clay, it's your mother. Are you okay? We haven't heard from you in months. Your voicemail is full, and we were worried sick." Her voice is filled with concern, a stark contrast to the emptiness he feels. He closes his eyes, the weight of his despair pressing down on him. I'm fine, Mom," he lies, his voice cracking. "Just been busy." "Busy? Clay, you sound terrible. What's going on? Please talk to us." He swallows hard, the lump in his throat making it difficult to speak. The truth is, he's been lost in his despair and trauma, consumed by the endless journey to find a way to save Christine from eternal torture. His apartment is a mess, the remnants of his obsession scattered everywhere. Books on the occult, ancient texts, and notes filled with desperate scribbles. "I can't, Mom. Not now," he says, his voice barely audible. "I have to go. Clay, please. We're here for you. Don't shut us out." But he can't bear to hear the worry in her voice, the pain he's causing him. He ends the call, the silence in the room feeling even more oppressive. He stares at the phone, the missed calls and unread messages a testament to his isolation. Clay takes a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He knows he can't continue like this, but the thought of giving up on Christine is unbearable. He gets up, the cold floor sending a shiver through him, and begins another day of his relentless search for a way to save her. Clay stands in the dimly lit apartment, the weight of Christine's absence pressing down on him. He glances around, eyes lingering on the few possessions he has left. With a heavy sigh, he grabs a box and starts filling it with items he once cherished. Each object feels like a piece of his past slipping away, but he knows he has no choice. Clay walks through the town, the early morning chill biting at his skin. The streets are quiet, the occasional car passing by its headlights cutting through the fog. His footsteps echo on the pavement, a steady rhythm that matches the pounding of his heart, his breath visible in the cold air. As he walks, memories of Christine flood his mind, each one a painful reminder of what he's lost. He reaches the pawn shop, its neon sign flickering in the darkness. Pushing the door open, he's greeted by the familiar musty smell and the sound of a bell tinkling above. The shopkeeper looks up, recognizing Clay immediately. "Back again?" he asks, his voice tinged with pity. Clay nods, placing the box on the counter. The shopkeeper begins to sift through the items, and Clay's mind drifts back to happier times. He remembers Christine's laughter, her smile, and the way she made everything seem brighter. The shopkeeper's voice pulls him back to reality. "This is all I can give you," he says, handing Clay a small wad of cash. It's not much, but it's enough to keep him afloat for a little while longer. Clay thanks him and steps back into the early morning, the weight of his loss heavier than ever. Clay heads toward Ram Jazz's shop, a small, dimly lit place tucked away in a narrow alley. The scent of incense and old books greets him as he steps inside. Ram Jazz looks up from a dusty tome, his eyes weary but determined. "Clay," Ram Jazz says, his voice a low murmur. "I found something." Clay's heart skips a beat. They've been searching for months, poring over ancient texts and consulting with anyone who might have answers. So far, their efforts have been in vain, but Ram Jazz's tone gives him a glimmer of hope. "What is it?" Clay asks, his voice tinged with desperation. Ram Jazz closes the book and looks at him, his expression grave. "There's someone in Mexico, a shaman who claims to have the ability to open a door to hell. But it's dangerous, Clay. The consequences are unknown." Clay's mind races. The thought of finally reaching Christine, of saving her from eternal torment, is almost too much to bear. But the risks? He knows they could be walking into something far worse than they can imagine. "I have to try," Clay says, his voice firm. "I can't leave her there." Ram Jazz nods, understanding the depth of Clay's resolve. "Then we must prepare. This journey will not be easy." As they begin to gather the necessary supplies, Clay's mind is a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The scent of incense grows stronger, mingling with the musty smell of old books. The weight of what lies ahead presses down on him, but he knows he has no choice. He must face whatever comes for Christine's sake.